live. Good evening, everybody. Tonight, as we have, especially over the last couple of months, feature another special guest who is helping Klal Yisrael with the situation going on in Eretz Yisrael. And you see here on your screen a local hero, Perets Benhiyoun. So, Perets, thank you so much for joining us, taking some time. And please introduce yourself. Give us a little background. Not everybody is as big a fan as I am and knows, has all your baseball cards. Tell us a little bit about your personal background and what led you to become so intimately involved in helping the situation in Eretz Yisrael.
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, Rabbi Epstein, and hello, everybody. My name is Perets Benhiyoun. I'm originally from Chicago. My father, Meir Chai, and mother Rivka are shluchim in the city in downtown since 1987. So I grew up in Chicago. I currently live in Brooklyn, in New York. I guess my passion is just because I'm Jewish. I'm a Jew and I care. It happens to be also my father is an IDF veteran, and I grew up with having my own father being a hero of the Yom Kippur War. And in our household, the IDF and Israel is something that was at the top of it was and is or was always at the top of things that we cared about. And moving here to New York, obviously October 7th happened, and there was nothing else to do but to do. So I told God, send me whatever you could, send me whatever you think I can do, send me, and I'll get it done.
So let's walk back to that step here. So one of the things that we always ask everybody, where were you on October 7th? How did you learn about what occurred? Give us a little bit of your personal experience at those moments, and then, as you said, you were compelled to leap into action and try to walk us through slowly the different steps that led you to become involved where you are right now. So if you don't mind, take us back, October 7th, Shabbos morning. What's your personal experience there? And then if you can walk us through the steps from that point forward.
Of course. So I was sleeping on my couch, actually. I hosted a meal. I think I hosted a meal, I'm not sure. But I was sleeping on my couch. And ironically, at around 6 a.m., it had to have been 6 a.m., I had a dream that I was actually in the IDF, and we were in Gaza, and we were in a tunnel, and the dream was actually me leaving the tunnel with my battalion, and as we left, there were kids throwing rocks at us, but we won the war. We already won the war, and we left. Literally, that was my dream. Within an hour after that, my friend, literally, who doesn't keep Shabbos or Chag, ran into my apartment. His mother just recently passed away, so it was kind of normal for him to run into my apartment. He's going through stuff, so my house was open to him. He comes in and he was like, "We have a problem," and then he began to tell me what was going on. I couldn't believe him, didn't believe him, and then he ended up leaving. There were two Israeli girls that were coming to me so I could take them to shul, actually. So I actually ended up having to tell them. I didn't know where their families were. So, and they both keep Chag. So that was very nerve-wracking to give them the news. Thank God their family was okay. One of their families was in Ofakim, which was hit really hard, and we'll get to that. But that's really it was very they grew up in having attacks. So when I told them today's the worst day in Israel's history, they were like, okay, but everyone's okay, right? And usually with wars, with the rockets and everything, it's like, okay, there's a big barrage of rockets, but everyone's okay. In this case, I was like, no, not everybody's okay. I don't know where their families were again. So, and they freaked out. But we ended up having the rest of Chag, trying to get bits of information here and there, and then everything really just hit me as Chag ended. Once I started saying Havdalah, everything hit me, and well, life was different. Obviously, you go on your phone and you see what was going on, and life will never be the same for sure.
Okay, so like everybody, we're all moved. What can I do? We start davening, we start doing mitzvahs, we're calling, everybody's got the motivation, the incentive. We want to do something. How can we help? Walk us down the path that Hashem sent to you to be your way to help.
So thank God I've built a little bit of a community for myself here in Brooklyn. So some people know who I am, and I try to get things going. I host meals. I host some events. So right away, I just basically went on my feeling. I was like, okay, and there's nothing going on. There's no kumsitzes. There's nothing really happening. So I'm going to be the one to do it. So, and really also there was, for me, there was zero headspace for anything else. I work, I do real estate and I sing, and it was at end of Chag. I had three apartments I needed to rent, and everything was just, on hold. So I had no headspace for anything else. So that's the only headspace, the only thing I had room for in my head. So I started with just going to events, and then I made a concert with a few artists that I know, including myself, here, and it ended up being huge. Well, relatively to how much advertising there was, people came in from Muncie and Far Rockaway and different areas. It ended up, which was supposed to benefit three different Israeli benefits, and we did that. It was a massive success. And then after that, I just like told myself, I was like, okay, you did this. Hashem is going to send you other things to do. So I did that. And then the hostage families came in from Israel. There was a group of hostage families that were brought in by Chabad came in from Israel to New York. And somebody knew that I did this event. And one of the hostage families, after all the families went back to Israel, one of them stayed in Brooklyn and stayed in Crown Heights. Somebody knew that I did an event. They wanted to do an event for their son, who's currently being held hostage in Gaza. His name is Yosef Chaim Ohana. I could show a picture. I could share my screen shortly. And they wanted to do an event for him, and somebody called me to put us in touch, and asked if I can put on the event, put on for their son. I immediately said 100%, let's do it. And then we did it. Saturday night, we all got together. We did another concert, Kumsitz, for them. And then while I'm there, my mother actually texted me about a journalist in Chicago that's connected with News Nation or Newsmax. I think News Nation, which is one of the fastest growing national TV channels in America. New journalist there, and said that she was coming to New York looking to interview hostage families. So this is literally while I'm at the event. My mother texts me this, and I'm like, oh my God, let me ask her. So I asked the hostage mother if this is something she'd be interested in. She said 100%. And then the rest is history, and that's what really began the next 2 weeks of being with this family. Nobody asked me to, but nobody appointed me. But I realized that this family that's currently in New York does not have anybody that was with them. They weren't connected to any specific organization that was taking them around, not to see Times Square, but to meet with dignitaries and to say Yosef Chaim's story. And I just said, you know what, let's do this interview. Which in itself, you could just imagine dealing with Israelis is one thing, and then dealing with an Israeli mother whose son is currently in Gaza is a whole other thing with the TV channel. So we started a whole negotiation. Let me share my screen.
Please do.
So that I could show you. Let's see.
So why did she stay behind? She was there when all the other hostage families went back to Eretz Yisrael. What prompted her to stay in New York?
So they wanted to. Is my screen being shared?
We see Zoom. Yeah, we see the mountains. What else we got here? We don't see your cable report card.
There. Got it.
There we go.
So this is Yosef Chaim. Now let me move this over. Okay.
And as far as we know, he's currently still being held captive.
Yes, he's currently being held captive as of a day after this day. They actually, and it's okay to say this now because it's been so long, but Israel actually got footage of him in a tunnel and that he was alive. So they let her know that while I was with her, so the reason why she stayed, good question, was because they're very close and connected to Chabad. They said, what are we going to go back to Israel for right now? Let's stay in New York. Let's see what kind of influence we can have over here. And they wanted to really just be close to the Rebbe. They wanted to be able to go to the Ohel. Yosef Chaim's parents are divorced, but they were both here, and they have two other children. They actually lost a son already, a son when he was 7 years old to cancer. And had obviously a huge effect on the family and the other kids that they have.
And which part of Eretz Yisrael do they live in?
They live in Kiryat Malachi.
Kiryat Malachi. Give us a
it's
little
like under It's like under Tel Aviv, close towards the south. It's relatively south.
So their son was at the music festival. I mean,
Yes.
what was
So Yosef
his?
Chaim was at the music festival with friends, and they were hiding his friend was like, you know what, you go that way, I'll go this way. For some reason, they were like, let's go help people. So you take there, you take there, and that was the last time Yosef Chaim's friend saw him. And then
His
another
friend
friend of
escaped. His friend was able to escape.
his friend, yes, his friend was able to escape. There was another friend of his that saw Yosef Chaim under a truck and under a tank or a truck or wherever it was, and that was the last time he saw him. And it makes sense that right afterwards they took him. There is actually footage. The IDF didn't release it. They showed it to the parents of Yosef Chaim being taken by the terrorists at the party. So that's how they were able to confirm that not only was he taken hostage, but that he was alive while he was taken hostage. So yeah, so he was just there at the party, and all of his friends are saying that he stayed behind to help a lot of people that were stuck trying to get out of there, and he stayed behind, actually his two best friends are in America right now, going kind of on tour. Also, that they were also at the Nova Festival. There was a whole story on their end, but yeah, it was mayhem, and he was.
So his mother and father are here in New York, and you got connected with them, and you trained them. So who have you been able to meet? What have they been able to accomplish?
Yeah, so like I said before, with an Israeli mother and a national TV, she didn't want to go to Manhattan to do the interview. They didn't want to come to Brooklyn. So then it commenced the 2-day negotiation period between me and the mother and the TV interview. And we ended up settling on my apartment, as you can see here in Brooklyn. We were able to get the TV station to come and basically make my apartment.
She speaks English, this woman? This woman speaks English?
Yeah, she speaks enough to be able to answer questions, but very, very choppy. And it's very tough because her emotions, she could bring out her emotions more in Hebrew, but with English, kind of struggling. So it was a little tough for her. But that really began the next 2 weeks of. This is Miri, Yosef Chaim's mother over here. You can see over here. The next few weeks of meeting people. So this is me and this is Miri with the Attorney General Letitia James. I know she's not very popular in certain areas, but she was actually very, very nice and very empathetic, and was there with Miri. Miri.
This is your apartment, or no? This is
this is now we went to. This is her office. This is Letitia James' office. How did it happen? Also, I want everybody to really know. The reason why I'm saying this is because I'm not anybody. I'm not somebody that has connections to Letitia James and the governor. Like, I just literally just used my network. Obviously, I'm in New York, okay, so people are around a little more, but I'm not somebody that just has connections. I just I was like, you know what? Step by step, let's make things happen. So we go, Letitia James, Mary spoke in front of everybody. Then this was Newsmax, another TV station. People started reaching out a little bit, and we went to different events. This is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, that she met.
That's in Washington, D.C.
Yes. No, this is in New York. He came in to meet for the ZOA's dinner. Zionist Organization of America had a dinner, and he came in for that. And that's where we brought Mary. This is another senator. I'm blanking on his name. And then this is ABC News, did an interview for Mary. And so really this is Mary's idea, like, how is it going to help? What is she really doing? Her idea, I think it's when you speak about hostages, the numbers, and every single hostage has their own story. Every single hostage has their own struggle and life story. And Mary was here to say his story. And really, I think on another level, there was really no other family of an Israeli native. Obviously, you have the Goldbergs. Poland's from Chicago, whose son Hirsch is held hostage, and they're at the forefront doing amazing things. He's an American national. Yosef Chaim is Israeli. There was no Israeli families actually in America really going around and saying his story. So raising awareness, building up these connections, keeping it relevant. I think in the news line really helped, and it also helped for Mary. This is when Mary asked me, "Let's go do this. I want to meet this person." Mary's first original thing was, "I want to meet the mayor." And I was like, okay, let's meet the mayor. How are we going to do that? I don't know. But a mother of a hostage is looking at me and saying, I want to meet the mayor. So I'm going to go and do whatever I could. So really, I wasn't thinking about the ramifications. Oh, what's this really going to do? And what's the outcome? This is a mother whose son is being held hostage. Let's go. And we're going to go. So we ended up actually being able to meet with Kathy Hochul in the governor's mansion in Albany.
The governor of New York, yeah.
Yes. And that basically really was a 2-week period of every single day, going hard from 6-7 a.m. till 9 p.m. because in the morning there's the TV interviews, afternoon there's a meeting, in the night there's a dinner to go to meet the Speaker of the House, and then the same thing over and over again for a couple weeks.
And in your experience, when she meets with these politicians, is it politicians, or do you get a sense, maybe it's hard to tell, if they're sincerely concerned, or are they just giving you the political?
Yeah, I'll be honest. It depended on the person. Letitia James was the most personable, and it happens to be she doesn't have kids. She doesn't have kids of her own. She happens to be that she was the most personable between her, Casey Hochul, and the Speaker of the House. The Speaker of the House was right after his speech. Is if you could see also in the pictures, it was like kind of in the cell in the doorway. Right after he came down from the stage, so it was like it was you're not going to sit in the office. So everyone was as empathetic as possible. I think Letitia really connected with her on a woman-to-woman level. Letitia also lost her nephew to cancer. So, and Mary also was telling her about her 7-year-old son, who she lost a bunch of years ago to cancer as well. So it was meaningful to Mary, and Mary was just like, I can't wait for Yosef Chaim to come out, and we're going to tell him we went to the end of the world for him, and that's really what it was about. And that's what she did. So the day after the ABC News Live interview, I had a flight booked to Israel, and I went wearing Yosef Chaim's shirt. And also, you could see when you land in Israel, all the hostages have their signs along as you're walking up. So I made sure to wear Yosef Chaim's.
So this is in Ben Gurion
yes,
airport. Yeah.
The next day when I landed in Israel. Again, also with Israel, I didn't go connected to any organization or really know exactly how everything was going to work out. I just said I'm going to go. If I was like, I was just a dude in Brooklyn, and within 2 weeks I met the Speaker of the House and the governor. Once I get to Israel, I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out. And that's also really what happened.
So walk us through this. You went with the mother?
No, she actually stayed in America for a little bit. She's now in Ukraine, next to Nachman Uman. She's feels very connected to Rabbi Nachman Uman, so she's there. And then
That's Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who's buried in Uman, just to fill everybody in.
Yes, sorry.
Okay, so you went to Eretz Yisrael. So when is this? This is a couple.
This is December 6th, I believe.
So
December
2 months ago.
December 7th, yeah.
Okay, and what was your agenda? What were you hoping to accomplish?
I was hoping to go. So also, I sing. If people don't know, I sing. So I wanted to really just go. And also, if you can see on social media, there's a lot of singers, people going to Shiva houses, hospitals, bases, really anywhere that they could to spread light and to sing for soldiers, sing for the wounded, sing for families. So I was like, that was my plan, to just go and sing as much as I could at bases or wherever it is. And once I got there, I realized obviously there's a lot more than singing to do. But that was my idea, to go to hospitals, bases, Shiva houses.
So you went with no itinerary, nobody's holding your hand, you're just figuring it out. Wow, crazy.
Zero. Yeah.
So you know your way around Israel. You've been to Israel before. You have a lot of family. You get there. Where are we looking at now? What is this picture here?
So this was the first night. I brought food. I didn't make the food or pay for it, but I brought it to a base in close to Jerusalem. I forgot exactly where the base. I think it's Gedud Nachshon. And this.
Did you have any issues with clearance? Will they get suspicious? They know.
No, I'll get to that when we get to the West Bank. When I went to the West Bank, soldiers being suspicious, but this one they knew we were coming to drop off the food, so I was just a guy with a few girls. We were coming to bring the food. He also, just an example, he has a fiance. I think they're supposed to get married. The wedding was pushed off. He is in Miluim. Miluim are reserves, volunteers. They do not need to be there. They can leave at any time. He has friends that left, and no shame to them. They went and continued their lives. He's there, and I said, how long are you going to be here for? And he said, I'm going to be there till the end. His name is Shmuel, I think. His parents are from Cleveland. He's Israeli. Incredible guy. He's just there and sitting guard. Really, I want to say, I guess before we go on with other pictures, just a quick story about really what's the reality in Israel right now. And I was in a shawarma place at 2:30 a.m. One of the first nights that I was there, and I made a hachlata that when I go there, I said
resolution. You made a
a
resolution.
resolution.
Yeah?
I said wherever I go, I'm going to pay for, if there are soldiers there, I'm going to pay for their meals. So I go to this shawarma place and I see a guy, he's wearing a gun. He wasn't in his uniform, but he's wearing a gun. So he's probably off for the weekend. The owner, he's about to order. The owner asks him, "Ata chayal? Are you a soldier?" He said, "Yes." He's like, "Okay, ata lo mishalem. You're not paying." So he gives him his food. The soldier leaves. So I was like, I'm going to go to the owner. And this guy is 75 years old. It's 2:30 a.m. He's still in his own shop, so he needs the money. I'm gonna go. So I went to him and I said, "Listen, let me pay for the soldier, so at least you have the shawarma paid for." And the soldier didn't need to pay. And he looked at me like I fell off the moon, and he said, "Absolutely not. That shawarma is not being paid for. Nobody's going to pay for it, and that's it. That's the end of the story. Don't even try to continue this conversation."
Okay, which shawarma store is that? We want to
know. It's right next to the Shuk on Agrippas. If you walk out of the Shuk, you can see it. That was the beginning for me. I'm like, okay, this is the reality here right now. This is a 75-year-old man who owns a small business and needs the money. And I was like, this is 2:30 a.m. Can you imagine how many more soldiers he did that for throughout the entire day? And that was I was like, okay, let's go. He didn't let me buy this soldier, this one. Let's go. Let's find other ones. So really, walking through Israel, this soldier, if you could see my cursor moving, this one over here with the guitar on the right was in Gaza. At that point was like 60 days into the war. He had a weekend off, and this is what he did for the night before he was going back to Gaza the next day. He was chilling with his friends, playing music in the shuk. We were walking by. And we ended up singing with him. These two, I'm not sure if they're in the army or not, but this one in the green jacket is. And the reason why I kept this screenshot here is just a quick interesting thing. The GPSs are off in Israel at certain points. The IDF turns off the GPS, so you could be randomly in the middle of your day. You look at your location, or you'll look at your Google map, and it'll think the map will think that you're in Cairo or you're in Lebanon. You're not in Israel. They really do it to specifically in traffic times to throw off the enemy, so they don't know really where to aim their rockets, or they just don't have as much intel on what's going on. This is one of our heroes of the war, who actually, his name is Mordechai Shenvald. This is in Tel HaShomer Hospital. He had
Where is that?
It's close to Tel Aviv, a little bit north of Tel Aviv. Okay. And it's a hospital where a lot of wounded soldiers go to. Actually, the two Chatufim, the two hostages that were just rescued from Rafah, were brought to this hospital to get checked on. Sure. So Mordechai Shenvald, his story quickly, he was in Gaza, the second tank to go in the ground invasion. He was in, and a rocket actually landed, believe this or not, but a rocket landed on his chest.
Wow.
And it didn't explode, which is why he's alive. And he was saved. He has a lot of, he looks relatively okay in this picture. He has a lot of internal damage, which is, it's hard for him to walk, and his stomach, his ribs, just everything going. He is a hero. He actually came to New York a few weeks ago. We went to the UN together. That's a whole other story. This is Lior Narkis. A lot of Israeli singers, famous singers, are coming to the hospital to just, try to make the soldiers happy. This was on Hanukkah, and this is Mordechai with his sister, I believe, or friend, lighting the menorah at the hospital. Mordechai. He's just a special man. He makes, we clicked, but he, Mordechai at this point wasn't really known as like the famous injured soldier in Israel. Within the days after that, people found out about him, and he started singing he's a musician. And if you check out my Instagram, I could post it later. You could see footage of us playing and singing together. And then here's just a quick photo. If you look at this soldier over here on the left with the eye patch, it's a little graphic, but this is some of the soldiers. By the way, this is a good-looking soldier. This is some of the good-looking ones that came out of Gaza, of how they look. And it's just it's crazy to see some without limbs, just his whole body. It's whatever. I don't want to get too graphic, but yeah. Then barbecues. That's been a big theme of the war. Doing barbecues for soldiers. A lot of people are like, okay, what's the big deal of a barbecue? Just imagine you're at war, if you can for a second. You're at war, you haven't eaten a normal meal in 5 days, or you're in training, you haven't eaten a normal meal or slept in 2.5 days, and you come back to your base and there's fresh meat, hot dogs, burgers, steak, chicken being made for you. It's an amazing feeling, and soldiers specifically told me that as well. I had a funny story. This was us making it. This is just a beautiful landscape. This is overlooking Lebanon. So these mountains over here are Lebanon, and this is with Golani, which is one of the brigades. Gdud 13 is the one that's in Gaza right now. This is more on the Lebanon side. I'm gonna flip through over here. This was them eating. I just want to show you a beautiful, beautiful moment with this soldier over here. His name is David. He came to me with his plate full. Plate was full. And he asked me, what is the hechsher on the meat? And I was bewildered. I was like, this guy, you're in the middle of war. Like, whatever the halachas are and what hechshers you need to eat during war, I don't know. But this man, and he asked me not just to wonder of like, if it wasn't the kashrus that was up to his standards, he would have put the plate down and had salad. He would not have eaten it. I asked my brother-in-law, who, by the way, arranged this. I helped make it happen. But my brother-in-law, Zalman Traxler, in Tzfat, and my sister, they're very active. So he's the one that put on the barbecue. I asked him what the hechsher was, and thank God it was the hechsher that worked for him. And he ended up eating. And this is, just imagine, we're sitting here with our priorities and lack thereof, and I'm speaking for myself, and you have a soldier in the middle of war worrying what the hechsher is. Just unbelievable. And then they stopped for mincha to daven. Just beautiful, beautiful guys. And then I had my life dream to sing for soldiers on their base. I was able to thank them and sing the Misha Berach for them, which was extremely, extremely special. Yeah, that was that base. The soldiers are just they're unbelievable, amazing attitudes. Like, what could I say?
Well, you're amazing for doing this. So, Perets, we want to first of all thank you for sharing this with us. I'm sure all these things you're doing, they don't come free. They cost money, and maybe people would like to participate. Is there some way that people watching here could financially help in your wonderful activities? Is
Yes.
there a website? Is there a PayPal?
Yes, it's I have Zelle, Venmo, or Cash App. While I'm trying to get an organization going and a bank account that everything could funnel through, but in the meantime, everything is funneling through my Zelle.
Tell it to me. I'll put it in the chat. Just say it to me real slow.
I'll text you.
Well, can you put it in the chat? If you can just put it in the chat, that's the simplest. Can you stop sharing screen and put it in the chat? That would be simplest. There you go. So just type it there in the chat for everybody to see.
I don't see it. Where's the chat?
On the bottom, there should be a little symbol next to the share screen. There's a little thing that says chat. Well, tell it to me and I'll type it.
Here, I'll forward it to you. We didn't get to go. I don't know if you have more time. I'm happy to. Unless you're ending.
You know, well, let's take a break now, and then we'll have you maybe another time to share some more. But we want to be respectful of your time and everybody else's time. I'm going to put it here in the chat, and I usually send out a follow up, so I'll include it there as well in the WhatsApp. So we want to thank you. First of all, God bless you for what you're doing. Obviously, a beautiful, beautiful thing. And Hashem, of course, should see the kindness, Mika Amchi Ki Yisrael, who was there like the Jewish people, and the way they've rallied around each other. And again, we daven for the return of all of the captives. We daven for the healing of all those who've been wounded, as he talked about, and an end to this and all wars with Bias Mashiach Tzidkenu, the coming of Mashiach. So thank you so much for spending this time. If somebody wants to unmute and jump in with a quick question, please do. Again, look in the chat. You'll see that if you want to financially support this work.
Put my number there as well, if anybody has anything.
Okay, that's another way of doing it. And of course, I can always get you this information later. But if somebody wants to jump in with a question, we want to be respectful of Perets' time, and we thank him for all his work.
I want to
he hasn't
jump in.
gotten
I
all
don't
his
have
sleep.
a
Please.
question. I just want to say how wonderful the work you're doing is. Just beyond. So thank you.
Amen. Thank
Thank
you. Anybody else? Otherwise, we're going to say goodnight. We'll send out the recording.
Oh.
Yes. What?
Oh, hi, Perets. It's Batsheva. So,
Hi.
if you can put together a flyer in some way, because I am a cyber